Good morning. This morning we're going to be talking about the high price of freedom. As we have now officially ended the war in Afghanistan yesterday. The last of the flights flew out. There are no more U.S. troops on the ground. It's at a tragically ending point where we lost 13 and had 15 wounded, and so it's a difficult, dark point in our history, where we end one war and we lose 13 people, 13 more soldiers, 13 more servicemen, Marines, Navy, and Army. And so going back to 1991, when I was first in combat in Desert Storm, I remember sitting there in Riyadh, listening to the forecast, of number of casualties we could lose out of Desert Storm. And it was 3, 4, 5,000, up to 10,000, depending on who you listen to. And of course, it turned out to be that we lost only around 300. Half of that wounded, half that number wounded, and stuff. So it was much lower than the cost of lives expected. But any time that you lose one life, the cost is high. Having been in the Army for 20 years, I went to a lot of memorial services, and I went to a lot of funerals, and I did a lot of funerals too, because of being the funeral detail in CIC of my brigade for 6 months in Texas, and so I am I won't necessarily say versed in the casualties and stuff, but I'll say that I've had my share of that side of the coin, and it's not one that you like, the positive thing is now we're not putting more troops in harm's way in Afghanistan, and we decided that it's over and done. I'm not going to point blame at anybody. I'm not going to say it's anybody's fault or whatever. That's another thing. What I'll say is that this is way things work in the Army and in other branches of the military. We go do what we are told to do. There was a book written some years ago. It was called "What Was Asked of Us," and that is what we do. What is asked of us. 1973 was the first year that the all volunteer force came on board. And of course it took years to get all of the draftees out and retired and whatever. But we are in and have been since way before 9/11 in an all volunteer force. So we decided that we were going to do this 20 years ago, after 9/11. We're coming up on the 20-year anniversary. I saw somebody had put on one of the Marines Facebook thing that he was not even born when 9/11 took place, and I realized that. But in 20 years you have to expect that, and nobody is twisting his arm, and nobody is telling him he can't do this, and nobody telling him he can't do that. He's doing what he wants to do, or she. There will always be people who want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and those are the type of people who will volunteer to serve their country in whatever way is possible. Having been in combat and having been in Iraq and Afghanistan both, I saw the situation firsthand on the ground. I saw what we were up against, and I saw that we were not going to do well because there was a lot of politics involved. I talked to a friend, I talked to a guy this weekend when I was at the Louisville VFW for their grand reopening, and I told him, I told somebody when I came home in 2004 from Iraq, 6 months, gloves off, and we'll take care of it. And I honestly believe that if they would have gave us 6 straight months of just taking care of military business, that we could have solved that problem a lot quicker. The same thing, Afghanistan's a little different because it's more rural and stuff, but it's possible, but after you don't commit 100% to a conflict, then you need to pull out. You need to stop taking pot shots and shit like that and get things done. It is hard for us to be on the ground in combat, to be following rules that we can't enforce, to keep people from getting killed because we have in our sights the target, but because of PID was positive identification, that General Petraeus came up with, we couldn't shoot, and that's just part of the politics things. They were thinking that we were shooting innocent civilians, and I can assure you that anybody that has a trigger in a cell phone or something like that in their hand is not an innocent civilian, especially when there's nobody else around. You pull that trigger, you take care of that person, that saves lives, and that's what we do. Unfortunately, like I said, over the time I was in the military, I watched that politics thing move to where it is almost choking the soldiers and Marines and Navy and Air Force and Coast Guard to where they couldn't do their job and they couldn't do anything about it. That's part of that mental health challenge there, where you have to take care of yourself. You have to do something to take care of yourself, And, now we're at a point where, okay, everything's done. So now we have to take care of ourselves. This is where some of the stuff that you learned as a soldier, of taking care of yourself, self-care is going to come in. When I was in the field or in Afghanistan or Iraq, I'd be going for 22, 23 hours a day sometime, 4 or 5 days in a row, and then you realize that, hey, you got to slow it down, buddy. You're not going to survive. You got to take care of yourself, The biggest thing is self-care, and I know a lot of people think it's a weakness. It's not, it's what's needed in order for you to keep going on a mission. It's just like with me in last year when my back got so bad I couldn't work in the kitchen, and I got 100% disabled from VA. I am now helping other people with that same frustration of being broken but still being useful. There are some things that I cannot do, but there are a lot of things I can do, because of the fact that I have the experience, I have the purpose, and I have the drive, and my drive is to help veterans, and help them deal with things that are something they can deal with. They just need somebody to help them come along the side and say, hey, you're not alone, I'm going to help you. A lot of times that is what comes down to, is just saying, I'm going to help you, and you stick with it. A couple weeks ago I talked about intent versus action. This is another one of those things where intent is not going to get anywhere and action is. You need to have a plan for how you're going to do things. You need to know what you're going to do before you do it. When you walk up to a veteran and say, I'm here to help, and he says, what are you going to do? It's like, I'll listen to you. If you want to talk, I'll listen to you. Because that is something that all veterans want. Somebody that is there all the time is going to eventually get that point where they can be trusted and they can reach out to somebody and they know that that person's there. That's what I've done in the past year and a half, of reaching out to veterans. The 5 or 6 that I am in constant contact with, they know that I'm there. They know that I will listen. They know that no matter what it is, there's no judgment. It's a safe zone. There's no get over it. Oh, you're just a pussy or whatever. I'm going to listen because, everything they say is valid. Just like I've talked about trauma before. You can't compare two people's traumas. Trauma for a traumatic event for some person is not a traumatic event for another person. So you can't compare trauma. People talk about us swapping war stories all the time. We're swapping war stories, okay? We're not beating each other up about, oh, you're a pussy or whatever. We're swapping war stories, okay? We're talking about real shit, but we're talking about it in a manner that each other understands. We're not doing any of that bullshit. It is hard sometimes for veterans to reach out for help. And when they have, say, that 4-letter word, help, that means that they probably have hit rock bottom or hit rock bottom 10 times and finally decided they can't do it. I don't want people to get there. I want people to reach out for help before they get to rock bottom. Because it will be a lot easier to get you out of rock bottom. But if rock bottom is where you're at when you reach out, then that's where you're at and I'll come get you. Just like I've said before, I will walk into hell and walk somebody out of hell just to help them, because that's what I do. Getting back to the end of the Afghan war, there's just not any way to say that is it. It's people's lives. People's lives were changed. My life was changed. I have thousands upon thousands veteran friends that's lives were changed, and now it is processing that change into something good that can help other veterans. So now, if you're a veteran of Afghanistan or Iraq or Vietnam, Korea, you can reach out to those veterans who are struggling the same as you are, and you can talk to them, and maybe through talking to them, you'll understand something about yourself because you talked to somebody else about it, or you're helping somebody else and you saw something. A lot of times, people don't realize that by helping somebody else, you help yourself, because you will find a solution that you were looking for when you go help somebody else. I've said it before, when we connect, we survive, and that's talking about the tribe. Our tribe, we need to connect to each other veteran-wise, and we will survive because two is stronger than one. And I'm not going to keep going with that analogy, you know what it is, But being alone is not where you want to be at. You want to be able to reach out, and you want to be able to help somebody. And you want to be able to get help yourself. This also goes for military spouses, who are going through the same thing as their veteran, except from the spouse side, and don't understand their veteran. And if you need help and you need to reach out to somebody, reach out to them. You know, I will talk to veterans, I will talk to veteran spouses, I will talk to veteran children, I will talk to veteran friends. You know, anybody who is connected to that veteran that I can get a door in, a foot in the door, I will talk to, because of the simple fact is that is what it's all about. You know, it is about reaching out and helping people. Like I said, they'll drag this whole Afghan thing out on the political side till hell freezes over, but I ain't worried about that. What I'm worried about is right now how we can help people who are struggling with that separation now that that war is over, now that everybody's home, now that everybody's, you know, going back to doing their thing, you know, whatever it may be. You know, veterans who have been home, out, like for me, today, in fact, is 9 years to the date that I hung up the uniform last, you know, August 31st, 2012, 9 years ago I hung up the uniform. And I am almost doing the same thing I was doing 9 years ago, and that's helping veterans, you know. And I just was wearing the uniform, now I'm not, you know. So the key right now for the veteran community is to reach out to each other, support each other with your words, give encouragement, give help where you can help. If you know somebody who can help that veteran, refer them to that person, you know, and all that. You know, it's all about connectivity. You know, it's about being connected. I'm connected to this person who connected to that person, and this person can help that person, and it's just a big connectivity thing. You know, I don't know how I've explained it in my mind, but you know, you reach out, you connect. That's the bottom line. So, you know, next week obviously will be the week before 9/11, so I'll probably be talking about 9/11, because you roll Afghanistan into 9/11 and it's all together, you know, and so you need to know that all of this together is the same, you know. So I want y'all to take care of yourselves, reach out to a veteran, and help somebody today. Thank you.